Today, we're talking about the 7 mistakes some OCD therapists are making in 2024. Now, I know the title sounds spicy, but in no way here am I trying to be spicy. What my goal is today is to talk to you about some of the things I've heard, whether that be on social media or on podcasts or on blogs or at conferences, when people are talking about the treatment of OCD that deeply, deeply concern me. Now, let me first say, in no way do I consider myself the moral police on OCD treatment. In no way do I believe that I am the knower of all things. In no way do I think that I know more than other people or that my way or the highway. That is absolutely not what I'm saying here today. However, I am going to give you my opinion on some of the things that I hear that deeply concern me. And I'm just here to share what I think is helpful. And I hope, if anything, it's here to really reassure clinicians that they're on the right track, because there are some amazing, amazing OCD specialists out there. And if not, if this is something that you maybe find is calling you out a little, please, I'm here to hopefully bring some goodness into the world. So let's talk about it. The 7 mistakes some OCD therapists are making in 2024. Okay, as I said, this is all about my opinion. Again, in no way am I the moral police, but let's talk about it. My guess is you're probably going to agree with everything I say. If not, I'm totally okay with being disagreed with. All right, so number 1, the first mistake that I see being made is clinicians not spending enough time at the beginning of treatment educating their client about the research and about the science-backed treatment approaches that are here ready for us to use for OCD. So often I hear clinicians, or I hear clients, should I say, saying in my office that they had this experience of ERP, exposure and response prevention, where they were kind of just thrown into it and they were like, let's just go. And I get that. I love an eager therapist. I love a therapist that's not going to waste people's time. But we have to spend a lot of time at the beginning educating them about the condition of OCD, helping them to understand their obsessions and their compulsions and how we get stuck in them and how they can be so seductive and how they can trick us. And also talking about what's coming, what treatment's going to look like, what you can expect. We have to spend a lot of time talking about that as well, so that the person who's engaging in this treatment feels a sense of mastery over what's about to happen. They feel like they can make decisions as they go because they've got a plan. They can see the final, crossing the finish line. And so they can kind of keep that. They know what that's going to look like, and they can use that to inform their decisions and how they connect and communicate with the clinician. Now, the second mistake I see some OCD therapists make is not instilling hope and confidence in the client, right? We have to remind our clients that they have everything that they need, that the treatment can be very, very successful, and that it's an experiment. We don't have to get it perfect the first time, and that this is a collaborative experience. And there's a lot of hope here that by us collaborating and by us talking through what's working, what's not working, and having them understand that this is actually a really good thing to have, in terms of there are many conditions that the treatment kind of sucks. The treatment isn't that effective. The treatment doesn't help as much as it does with OCD. So I never want to sort of do like the toxic positive thing with clients, but I also want them to acknowledge, like, of the conditions, at least this is one that we actually have some good research on. We have some good treatment options for. We have these great modalities of supplement modalities that can go along, that can help us along the way. We want to infuse them with hope. We want to infuse them with confidence in this process. And I do often see, particularly younger therapists, not spending enough time really bringing a sense of hope to treatment because it's so scary. They're already in so much pain. They've probably been through treatment that sucked in the past. And so what we want to do is really focus on that hope, because hope often is what motivates us to take those first baby steps. Okay, so now let's go on to the third mistake I see some OCD therapists make, and that is not engaging in evidence-based modalities. This is a huge one. I could spend a whole podcast episode, I could spend a whole week on this topic. There is so much misinformation about treatment and what is considered evidence-based. Now, again, I'm not here to tell anybody what their treatment should look like. That's a personal decision, and every client gets to make that decision. Who am I to judge? People need to come and know that they have agency over their life and the decisions they make. But clinicians should be educated and should educate their clients on the options for evidence-based treatment modalities. Now, I am a huge supporter of exposure and response prevention. I have been trained in it. I have been doing it for 14 years. I have seen it succeed over and over and over and over again. And as I've been public in saying, I see no reason to abandon that. Now, that's not to say that I haven't introduced modalities that supplement ERP. I love the use of ACT. I love the use of mindfulness-based cognitive therapies. I love the application of self-compassion. In many cases, I have applied dialectical behavioral health therapy for clients who are struggling with emotional regulation. Maybe they're having self-harm, suicidal ideation. Absolutely. And as time continues, we're seeing new and newer approaches and modalities come up. But I see it as my job as a clinician to educate my clients on the treatment and what has worked and what I'm skilled at doing too. Now, the other thing is there are some research on other treatment modalities besides ERP. And I think that's wonderful. I mean, my hope is that one day we have something that, is a sure thing, 100%. We can absolutely promise that we've got guaranteed results. This is going to be something that I continue to learn and educate myself on, but my opinion is I'm sticking with ERP. I love it. I find it so helpful, so empowering. It lines up with everything, my treatment that has helped me. And so if for those who are wondering, I am a committed ERP therapist. Okay, so the fourth mistake I've heard some OCD specialists or OCD therapists make in 2024, or even before then, is saying that ERP is traumatic or abusive. Now, in fact, this concerns me so much that I did an entire episode with Amy Mariuskin. It's episode number 365, and we talk specifically about this very sensitive and important topic of, is ERP abusive? And what came from that episode is very similar to this one. Is I don't actually feel like ERP is an abusive treatment modality. I think that sometimes how it's delivered can be concerning, but that's the truth for any treatment modality. We could say the same about cognitive behavioral therapy. We could say the same about any medical treatment as well, in that how the delivery can determine whether this harms people who are vulnerable. One thing that I will be very clear in, and I believe this in my heart, is the narrative that exposures, that facing your fears is mean, is a traumatic experience. And I agree that if you're having someone face their fear without giving them the education that they need, not explaining to them why they're doing it, and believe me, guys, let me also disclose here, I've made a lot of these mistakes myself as a clinician. Let's just be open. I have been in this particular situation. Actually, if I'm going to be really honest with you, Number one, that mistake of not educating your clients, I learned that by a client telling me. They said, Kimberly, I do not understand why you're having me do what you're doing. Like, I'm someone who needs to know what I'm doing, or I'm not going to trust you. Like, slow down and tell me what this looks like. So again, no judgment over here. I've made a lot of these mistakes myself. But I think that throwing people in too fast and too hard can feel very overwhelming, very activating. Again, these are things we learn as we get better. Every clinician makes mistakes. That's kind of what makes them turn into a good clinician. In no way do I want clinicians to feel blamed or judged here. We're human beings. We're doing the best we can. And every client is different. Sometimes we also need to have built a rapport with clients so that they can share with us. And we talked about that in the episode with Amy. The most important piece here is having a rapport and a connection of trust and respect so that the client knows that they can tell us that this doesn't feel right, that this crosses my values and my limits and my boundaries. This doesn't feel like it's something that lines up with my values. And we can have a conversation about that and be respectful about this is what works for me in this relationship and this is what's not. Or here are my concerns about ERP and could you help me to work through this? Or could we consider a conversation before we move forward? I think that's what also helps this from being experienced as a trauma as well. But if this is something that is a hot topic for you, go and listen to that because it's such an important, compassionate, respectful episode. Amy did a beautiful job of going deeper into this specific topic. Okay, so number 5, the 5th mistake that some OCD therapists are making is they are following an ERP plan that has zero flexibility. I get it. When I first started as an OCD therapist, I was trained to use a very structured exposure and response prevention plan. There was like modules and systems, and you had to follow the manual. And I love my training. My training literally set me up, I think, to be, it was some of the best OCD training I think anyone could ask for. But there were times when I stuck to the plan so diligently that I missed the client. I missed their needs. I missed hearing from the client on what they think the next step is. Now, what I have found to be so beneficial is to talk to the client. What would you like to do next? This is our plan that we originally made together because we talked about it at the beginning of treatment. Do you feel like you're ready to take this next step? What's getting in the way of you taking this next step? Let's discuss. Is this the right steps based on what we thought we knew, or are we going to shift it up now? And I think that the flexibility in treatment helps teach clients how to be flexible in their daily life as well. We don't want to follow a rigid plan unless there's some clinical reason to do so. And I think we also have to understand here some intensive treatment programs require some really rigid plans because of the severity of the disorder. Absolutely. I completely get that. But I think where we're really going with that is it has to be individualized. We have to understand the client's needs in order to make a plan. And then from there, we can sort of decide what's best. But we have to stay away from having rigidity. I also don't love any treatment modality that has modules that makes the clients go through modules because, again, I think it misses the client and where they're at and what their needs are and what else is going in there on their life. That's just something that, I think, again, every clinician delivers it differently. I respect every clinician to know what's best for their clients, but it's something that we can look out for. Okay, the 6th mistake I see some OCD therapists make is the flip side of that, is they move on without exploring what was getting in the way. So let's say you had a treatment plan and the client said, that doesn't work for me. And then you just say, okay, fine. And you move on without slowing down and getting curious. Tell me about that. What's getting in the way of you being able to do this exposure? Is there an obsession I'm not aware of? Is there something else happening that's happening relationally? Or is there a trust issue or rapport issue between you and I that might be getting in the way of us not completing that part of the treatment plan that we had originally agreed would be helpful for you? So it's really important. And I've seen this with my own staff, with my own consultation, with other clinicians, is moving on too quickly can allow OCD to get sneaky and help them engage in avoidant compulsions. We have to be really careful of not engaging in compulsions with our clients. And sometimes our clients can be not our clients OCD can be very convincing at getting us to not address certain issues because of an avoidant compulsion. Again, complete transparency, I've been there a million times. So absolutely no judgment here. These are all things we just have to keep an eye out for and do the best that we can. Consult as much as we can. Do a little check-in with ourselves. I try to do a check-in every week. How is each client going? How are they doing? Where am I stuck? Where are they stuck? Am I having any blind spots here for this client? And this could be one where there's a real big blind spot. Which brings us to the last mistake, the seventh mistake some OCD therapists are making in 2024. And that is a huge one, which is not assigning homework to clients. This one is so hard. Again, I've been there. Often when clients are in a lot of distress and they have a busy life, they have a family, have a job, we might assign homework and they might show up on Tuesday at 9 o'clock and say, I'm so sorry I didn't do my homework. You say, not a problem, let's try and get it done this week. Send them home with the homework next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. They show up, still haven't done their homework. And sometimes I see this a lot. Therapists go, okay, then they're not someone who does their homework. So I'll pivot and I'll make sure we're doing extra exposures in session. That's a really great pivot, but I would usually stop there and have a conversation with the client and really help them understand, not from a place of judgment, not from a place of shame, but help them to understand that their success in treatment goes way down when they stop engaging in their homework assignments. We have to really stress to clients that 1 hour a week is not enough and that we have to find creative ways and motivation tools to help them make sure they're engaging in their assigned homework. I have allowed clients to send me the thumbs up emoji in an email to show me that they've done it. Or maybe they've called into my voicemail to confirm that they've completed their homework. Again, I don't make them do this, but I always offer to them, what can I do? What service can I offer you that will help you stay accountable to your homework? Because for every minute of homework you do, you have massively pushed the needle in the success of your treatment. And I often see a lot of clinicians just disregard homework and say, it would be great if they do it, but they won't. And I would stop and I would pause there and really explore with the client and make sure they understand that treatment won't be that super successful if they're not engaging in homework. Again, we want to get creative. We want to collaborate with them as much as we can. What can we do to help get that homework done? Can we set more realistic goals? Can we stack it onto another routine that you do? Can we help with accountability? Can we bring in a loved one or someone who can support you? What can we do to help increase the chances of you getting better? Because I always say to my patients, my hope for this treatment is to teach you everything I know so that you can be your own therapist. Not to say that I don't want to treat you and I think you shouldn't need a therapist. I just want you to be trained to think about it so that when you're at home and you're struggling, or maybe you're in recovery but you have a little lapse, you can recall, I remember the steps. I remember what I need to do. I feel empowered. I know this works. I'm going to get to it and trial that first. Okay? So there are the 7 mistakes some OCD therapists are making in 2024. Please know there is zero judgment here. Please also know this is just my opinion. I fully respect every clinician is going to come from a different perspective. I fully believe that every clinician comes and sees their client and has the ability to really, meet them where they are. I just wanted to bring this up because these are topics I'm discussing with my staff, and I think that it's something that maybe would help you today. I'm going to send you off with a big loving hug and remind you that today is a beautiful day to do hard things. If you're a client and your therapist is engaging in some of these behaviors, don't be afraid to bring it up. We're a collaborative team here. I always tell my patients, I want to hear your honest feedback. I want to hear if something's not working for you, because that helps you, and I'm in the business of helping. All right? Have a wonderful day. I'll see you next week.